So let's move and let's build what a perfect receiver prospect looks like. We did this with quarterbacks.
Okay.
I thought it was kind of fun. So we've broken down our wide receiver prospect into 6 separate categories. I'm going to give you the NFL prototype for each one, and then you can tell me who that is in this draft class. So we've got hands, route running, speed, size and frame, how he does at the catch point, and then yards after the catch. I think there's a few different sort of nuance bits that you could maybe fold into different categories or give them their own category by themselves. But I think broadly speaking, those are the 6.
Okay.
So NFL prototypes for each one of those things. Hands, I think, has to be DeAndre Nuke Hopkins. I maybe you can argue a couple of other guys, but I think Nuke is the guy with the best hands.
I think I would agree with you. Maybe there wasn't as many highlights this year for him that people can point to, but the dude's insane. I mean, very few wide receivers can make the most out of their catch radius. We all love to talk about catch radius, right? We love to talk about how long is the wingspan, and we go, ooh, yeah, but the potential catch radius. Like, all right, if we're being honest, when you watch the tape, do they actually get the most out of the catch radius? Because if they don't, like Mike Evans, for example, Mike Evans, I think, does a good job sometimes with the catch radius. Like sometimes we've seen Mike Evans sky for catches and fully extend the hands, and like he has that potential. But there's a lot of times when Mike Evans will let catches come into his chest, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, the catch radius doesn't really matter at that point. Nuke not only has phenomenal hand-eye coordination, he does, I think, an excellent job of always making the most out of his catch radius, which goes into it too.
Yeah, let me run through the rest. We've got route running. I've got Devontae Adams. I think you can make an argument for a couple of other guys, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, but I think Devontae Adams is the best composite of all of that.
Only one I'd say is Kupp.
Yeah. Speed, it's Tyreek Hill. There is no other answer to that. It is Tyreek Hill, the end of the conversation. Size and frame, I went with DK Metcalf. I think you could make a good argument as well for A.J. Brown, fellow teammates. But I think Metcalf's he's the guy that's just so utterly physically freaky. You know, he's the closest guy now to what used to be Julio Jones and then what used to be Megatron and Randy Moss. And
right.
Like, that, I think, is DK Metcalf right now.
Yeah.
Catch point, I went with George Pickens. I think you can, DeAndre Hopkins is in that conversation again, but Pickens is so good with the ball in the air. And I think probably the best guy in the league already after just 1 year. And then yards after the catch, I went with Debo. Different, I mean, very unique. You can't do that. Unique wide receiver. But just give that guy the ball, stand back.
You can't say unique?
You can't modify unique. Unique means one of a kind. So
sure.
Very one of a kind.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
It's just bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
No, it's good. You caught yourself. That's
I know.
Good.
What only after I'd said it, and therefore it looks stupid anyway. But yeah, like Debo, you give him the ball, you stand back, you watch. It's different. Nobody else can do that.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to think in my head. The only one that I would really argue with route running would be Cooper Kupp, but I think you have to give it to Devontae Adams. I said this a couple of weeks ago. There are other wide receivers who maybe you could put the value on it being higher. Like, for example, like people look at Tyreek Hill's speed and what kind of a weapon that is with and without the ball and say that's the most impactful, valuable wide receiver in the NFL.
Sure.
And I would understand that argument. When it comes to mastery of the position, I would tell you that there's nobody better than Devontae Adams.
Yeah,
I would tell you that he is the master of the wide receiver position in the NFL. So the only one that I would argue with Cooper Kupp, with that one would be Cooper Kupp. Speed, there's no debate with Tyreek Hill. What were the other ones?
Size and frame.
DK, I mean, again, Mike Evans is probably up there, but he doesn't use it as consistently as DK does. So I agree with that one, especially with the size and strength combination of what DK is. Who's catch point?
George Pickens.
Oh man, this makes my heart so happy because I feel like I was carrying the flag for George Pickens a lot last offseason. I had him at wide receiver 1 at one point.
Wow.
I had him at wide receiver 1, I think, at the beginning of January. And then I went back and I ended up having Drake London and Jamison Williams above him. So I ended up with Pickens as wide receiver 3. But even I am shocked at just how continually dominant he has been going to the NFL level, mainly as a contested catch wide receiver. He was nuts. And I think people in the chat are probably going to freak out about you having a rookie as the best contested catch wide receiver.
Don't care.
But the thing is that if he's not 1,
right,
he's like top 3 already. What he was able to do this last year, just the contested catch percentage, I feel like was insane from him.
68% of contested catches
it's
last
stupid.
year. If you're above 50, you're doing well. 68 is nuts.
Stupid. Just absolutely stupid. And then yards after catch, Debo. I can't argue that. Who else am I going to go with? I mean, there's a lot of good yards after catch wide receivers in the NFL. So this sounds insulting.
Yeah.
Even Cooper Kupp, phenomenal. Justin Jefferson, phenomenal. Stephon Diggs could be fantastic as well. But Debo is different.
The only thing that's slightly weird about it is because he's such a strange positionless type of player, so many of his yards after the catch plays are not like conventional wide receiver plays. You know what I mean? They sort of specifically manufacture yards after the catch touches because he's so good. But it's like,
I don't think that's a negative on him.
I don't think it's a negative. But what I'm saying is, like, how many other receivers maybe would be able to do some more special things after the catch if they got given those kinds of shots?
Sure.
Like I think Tyreek Hill is one of the best run after the catch receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
But he doesn't necessarily get as many of those opportunities.
AJ Brown's also phenomenal after the catch.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Garrett Wilson was incredibly good after the catch.
Well, it's because he's so quick.
Yeah.
Right. Just he gets that separation, creates the throwing window, and boom, he's off to the races. Like it feels insulting that we don't have AJ Brown on here, but he's within the conversation of a couple of these categories.
Yeah.
I just didn't. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I'd put him.
And there's something to that. Like the perfect wide receiver is the composite of this. It's not each individual one. So if you're the second best guy in all these, you're probably the best guy that the league has seen for quite a number of years.
Right.
All right, give me the what does the wide receiver draft class look like for each of these?
Okay,
standards?
do you want me to run down each of them and explain a little bit of it as I kind of go on, or do you want me to just say all of them and then you can touch on it after?
Yeah, let's give me each guy and then give me a sort of this is him and why.
Okay, all right, so I can do that. Hands, Parker Washington from Penn State. I seem to be like the number one Parker Washington fan in the draft community right now. I think he's fantastic. He is a smaller guy. I believe he's right around 6 feet, maybe a little bit less than that, but he's a powerful dude. He's over 200 pounds. And if you're playing him in this slot, he's like a power slot kind of a player, but he plays on the outside as well. The thing that impressed me the most with him is he is consistently a hands catcher. The hands are always out and extended to go get the ball. Obviously, there's times when the situation calls for him corralling it into his chest, but most of the time, if he has the opportunity to extend for it and make the most of whatever his catch radius is, which that could be short, intermediate, deep down the field. I've seen it all from him. He extends the hands, and he is consistently going out to get the ball and attacking the ball and doing it very, very well. His catchable passes caught percentage, I said that right, I think, over 90% this year, which is good. That's where you want to be. You want to be over 90%. He didn't have a ton of contested catch opportunities, but he was at 71% on the season. Guy is an extremely low drop rate, an extremely high contested catch percentage, and an extremely high just overall catch percentage. So for hands, I think that he's the guy that I point to, somebody who I really like in this class.
Again, don't know if you put any stock in it or not, but the model likes him a lot.
Let's go, Steve. I always believed in your work, Steve.
He's number 2, maybe in the model, 2 or 3. I can't line those dots up properly off eyeballing it. Yeah, so there you go.
I knew you were a smart guy, Steve. Okay, next, route running. I think a lot of people would expect 2 names here. And the name that I'm going to say is neither of those 2. I think a lot of people would expect Josh Downs, who is a slot machine. Just realized that saying those words mean something different, like an actual slot speed. But he is a slot receiver machine in the UNC offense. Good route runner, good yards after the catch guy. Or Ohio State's Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is also a very savvy route runner. My choice here is Charlie Jones, the wide receiver from Purdue. Now, Charlie Jones has an extremely interesting journey. This is another guy, not a big dude. He's not going to be a star-studded guy. He's 6 feet tall, about 190 pounds. Started his career at Buffalo. Okay, Buffalo University. Didn't really get on the field much. Played special teams early. Kind of played a little bit the next year, but he was like, look, I had dreams of playing in the Big Ten. Ends up transferring to Iowa. Is a walk-on at Iowa. Makes the team, again, plays special teams for him. Finally gets involved in the offense his 4th year, but again, barely. They barely used him. Ends up transferring to Purdue. This past year with Aiden O'Connell, he had like 1,300 receiving yards, 12 touchdowns. I mean, he was an absolute monster. And the reason why is because this dude has gone to work on his craft. And when it comes to the releases that he has at the line of scrimmage, setting guys up to open their shoulders and hips and then attack them the other way, going after blind spots, in routes, out routes, slants, mesh, skinny posts, fade routes, comebacks. This dude does it all. His route tree is incredibly diverse. He knows how to get off the line of scrimmage. He knows how to beat press. The footwork's fantastic. He is, to me, the best route runner in this class. Now, I don't know how high he's going to get drafted. I don't know where people are going to take him, but that is where my mind went. And I went back and I specifically, in preparing for this podcast, I was like, am I crazy if I put Charlie Jones here? And I sure as hell, I went back and I watched Jackson Smith-Njigba. I watched Josh Downs. I watched a couple of other slot receivers. I watched Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State, who I think is a good route runner for a bigger wide receiver. And then I watched Jones and I'm like, this dude's feet are better. This dude's releases are better. This dude's how he sets up cornerbacks. He understands things so well. There's no route, whether turning in or out or whatever. He just knows how to do it all. So he is my route running champ in this class.
All right. What do we got for speed?
Speed, Jalen Hyatt. It has to be Jalen Hyatt. Tennessee's Jalen Hyatt. Now, I will say, Josh Heupel, their head coach, does a phenomenal job of scheming him to get up the most out of his speed. Mm-hmm. They play a lot of their wide receivers in these stack alignments. So it's almost a little bit of like a mini version of, you know how the Canadian Football League wide receivers can get a head start and then you just start running? Well, they will play their guys in really deep stacked alignments on top of each other. So one wide receiver is on the line of scrimmage. The other one is behind them about 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, yards. So the guy on the line of scrimmage is taking up the player with press coverage. And the other player behind them gets to get a head start before he even reaches the line of scrimmage and can even get into the contact window with whoever is playing corner up against them. At that point, Jalen Hyatt is so damn fast that if you had anybody standing on the line of scrimmage while he had a head start, goodbye, it's over. It's not even close. So the speed in which this guy has is such a weapon, and Tennessee put that on display. There's not a ton of elite athletes in this class. There's not. Okay. But I think Jalen Hyatt, deep speed, he's the guy that you would want in that regard.
Okay. He is approaching the Quentin Johnston area of the model. Okay. You know, where the consensus loves him. The model, not so much.
He is, I will tell you, and a lot of people are worried about him because he is just a speed guy. Like, he is somebody who you were either running a go, a comeback, a post, or maybe a deep dig route over the middle. There's not a lot of versatility to his route running right now. There's just not. So I think he's very limited in his production and what he was asked to do at Tennessee. He was just put in a really good place to make the most out of the thing he does that he has that is very elite.
So size and frame. Who's our DK?
Size and frame, don't say who's our DK, because catch point is a little bit different than that. I think the guy I have for catch point's a little bit closer to that, but I did go Quentin Johnston for size and frame. Just because of the players that certainly are going to be picked high in this class, he stands out literally because he is bigger, because he is a good athlete at his size. You get guys like Jackson Smith-Njigba, Josh Downs, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, a lot of these other guys who might be picked in the top 50 or around the top 50, they don't even come close to having the size and the frame that Quentin Johnston does. So it feels like if you're going to take a bet on one of those guys in this class, it would be him. Though the production isn't fully there for him, I still think he's a really good athlete for a player his size. I think there is some route running versatility and potential that hasn't even really been asked of him yet, that he could be even better at in the NFL. And I do think that he has shown, maybe not as consistent as you want, but some good contested catches and making the most out of his frame. And especially because he's a guy who I think is going to test well explosively with the jumps. So I think that goes into it too.
What do you think he's going to run?
I would love for Quentin Johnston to run like just high 4.4s.
High 4.4s.
Like, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Anything in the 4.4s for Quentin Johnston, I'm good with.
I think 4.4 is very, very likely.
You think? Yeah. Like flat? I'd love that.
I could see 4.4 flat.
I would love for, I was about to say,
he's
like,
such a long strider.
I was about to say low 4.4s, but the issue with the 40 for me is always like the training for it.
Sure.
You know, like just getting down in the stance, and he is a bigger dude, like a longer dude. So can you get comfortable getting in the stance to actually make the most out of those first 10 yards? Because I do agree, he's a long strider, he's a bigger guy. To be safe, I'll say low 4, or I'll say high 4.4s, but I think when you get him in stride, he's a 4.4 flat kind of a player.
There's enough quick twitch that I don't think he's dead over the first 10 yards either. So I think he should be alive, you know, after 10, and then once that stride hits, just takes off.
Hopefully. Would love to see it.
I could see 4.4.
Would love to see it.
All right, catch point.
SMU's Rashee Rice. Rice has been pretty dominant, especially in the red zone over the last couple of years. This year, he took his game to another level. This dude, it just loves to be physical with you, straight up. People play press coverage on him and he welcomes it. He loves the contact window. He loves he loves dictating the contact coming off the line of scrimmage. He'll run a lot of go routes up the sideline, a lot of comeback stuff. A lot of it is very like sideline work, Mike Williams-esque, where he is not going to create a lot of separation for you, but SMU continually was just like, I'm going to bet on my guy versus their guy, and he always seemed to come down with it. He felt like a bully in that regard, where he was just going up against corners that did not have the strength level to go up against him. And I felt like I thought the contested catch percentage would, and this is maybe a little unfair to him. You mentioned a contested catch percentage that you like to see is like anything above 50%. I believe he had 16 contested catches on 33 contested catch opportunities. So It's a little less than 50%, but it's right there at that 50% number. So he is somebody who I think dominates at the catch point with strength. So he's the guy that I had to pick there.
Okay, last one, and then we'll run through them all. I think we have a little graphic. Yards after the catch.
Zay Flowers. I think it's got to be Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is one of the only wide receivers, I think, in this class that brings you that. If you're looking for any sort of Deebo Samuel type ability, that's this guy. Right. I think he is a really great separator, especially when you get him into the open field. If you allow him to run mesh concepts, if you get him with like deep over routes, like if you get him the ball even behind the line of scrimmage, some wide receiver screens, this guy can really hurt you. I think he's one of the best separators in this class. Now, I think there are better, maybe cleaner route runners, but when it comes to the athletic ability of separation, I feel like Zay Flowers is one of the best, if not the best, in this class at that. So he can definitely improve how clean his route running is, how he sets cornerbacks up to get them to open up their hips one way, and then he puts his foot in the ground and boom, turns the other way, things like that. But I think that can certainly come in the NFL. What I love about him is he already has the athletic ability to be a yards after catch guy.
All right, so there we go. We've built the perfect NFL wide receiver prospect from this draft class.